I mean, this is where the whole motorsports world comes together. People come from all over the globe to Indianapolis to come to the PRI show every December. But it's the connectivity. It's the relational side of the motorsports industry. A lot of these people only see each other at the PRI show. On this end of the spectrum, you got a guy that's got a $20,000 car in his barn. He races 6 times a year. And on this end of the spectrum, you got F1, IndyCar, NASCAR. That's a vast universe, right? And there's a whole lot going on in between.
That's right.
And grassroots is huge. And somewhere a little maybe right of center, you've got IMSA, and so it's just very, very vast. The PRI shows kind of brings all of that together.
Eat, Sleep, Race podcast. We're here with Mike Good, the president of PRI. If you spoke to a racer who has not been to PRI, what would you tell them is the reason they need to come?
Oh, man. I mean, this is where the whole motorsports world comes together. It's a culmination of, I say 3 things. We connect, protect, and advocate. The PRI show, that's the connect part of that equation. People come from all over the globe to Indianapolis to come to the PRI show every December. And, I think, obviously, there's amazing products that we can talk about those, the manufacturers, the innovation, the buyers that are walking around the building, the tech. But it's the connectivity. It's the relational side of the motorsports industry. A lot of these people only see each other at the PRI show. They're in different parts, different geographies. They're in different sanctioning forms of racing, and their paths don't cross unless they're here.
That's right.
And so there's a big aspect to it that I think that's like part of the fiber of the show. The brand equity of it is like people know I'm going to go to PRI. I'm going to get to see Johnny and Jenny and everyone that I really want to see and that I love seeing every year. And we're going to go to St. Elmo's and have a great steak. And so there's a little bit of that.
If you could get a spot.
Yeah, if you can get a spot, you better
those
book
reservations are months back.
Yeah, you got to go back. But no, it's great. Yeah.
And it's all forms of racing, which is why you say like you won't cross paths unless you're at the show, because we all know if you're in drag racing versus circuit racing, you have a full schedule once the season starts. You're never going to run into.
No, and your paths really don't cross if you're dirt, oval, drags, whatever. And I use the term agnostic. PRI is agnostic. You got on this end of the spectrum, you got a guy that's got a $20,000 car in his barn. He races 6 times a year. And on this end of the spectrum, you got F1, IndyCar, NASCAR. That's a vast universe, right? And there's a whole lot going on in between.
That's right.
And grassroots is huge. And somewhere a little maybe right of center, you've got IMSA, and so it's just very, very vast. And, the PRI shows kind of brings all of that together. It's all represented. And, it's spectacular.
So when we started coming to PRI 6-7 years ago, people would always ask us, well, why do you go to PRI and not SEMA? And the way that I translate it is we've walked SEMA for many years. It's a variety, an array of everything. It may be car show, it may be audio, it may be car detailing.
Sure.
Meanwhile, here, our target market is racing enthusiasts.
Right.
Everything in this building and multiple buildings is all our people.
Right.
Meanwhile, at SEMA, it's much larger landscape and everything is spread out. You don't really know who you may run into. Meanwhile, here, it's like, no, this is like the targeted, I guess, a niche trade show where everyone here is revolved around what we're interested in.
Yeah, I get asked that a lot. What's the difference between the two? How do you guys both exist and coexist? SEMA, it's shock and awe, right? I've been a SEMA exhibitor for years. And SEMA's amazing. It has its place in the world. It is, it's the largest trade show on the planet. And that's across all industries.
Really?
Last year it was. So the last data point. Largest trade show in the world. And, it has such amazing significance to it that it's bringing up all kinds of different aftermarket companies. PRI, I say it's more the intimate side. You go from shock and awe to intimate relational conversations and a lot of one-on-one, conversational things going on with the racers and the manufacturers, and you're talking about the camshaft that you're going to put in the car or the gearing or whatever it might be. And they both have value. They both serve purposes, but they are very different. And even though they're all owned under the same, SEMA owns PRI, acquired it 12 years ago, we are very unique brands that stand on our own. We have separate DNA. We don't commingle that. We're not trying to make one like the other. And we let them kind of have their own place in the world, if you will.
That's cool.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, but they are vastly different for sure. And I go to both every year. I have for a number of years, and yeah, it's a totally different mindset from one to the other.
I see different initiatives like the new sim racing. I believe that started last year, even growing much larger this year. One of our initiatives that we've been advocating for recent years has been we created a brand called Fast Kids Club to promote the motorsports lifestyle, especially for parents who are interested in racing, to the next generation, if not kids, nephews, grandkids.
Sure.
What is PRI doing, if anything, for the next generation to inspire the next generation? Because without planting the seed to current, infants, toddlers, younger children, there is no generation of racing down the future.
We're actually doing the same exact thing. It launches next Tuesday.
Hey.
No, I'm totally kidding. This is awesome. This
Appreciate
is amazing.
that.
And so I'm going to get here in just a second. I'm going to go back to your sim comment because it feeds into this.
Okay.
I just took that from you.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's yours, by the way.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
This is cool. I appreciate that. So sim racing last year, we had about an 8,000 square foot footprint at the show. This year, it's 43,000 square feet.
Oh, wow.
So significant jump, and there's a reason behind that. And one of our core initiatives right now at PRI, and it will continue on. It's not a right now thing. I shouldn't have said that. It's one of our core initiatives. Period. How do we attract the next generation into the industry that we all are passionate about and that we love?
Right.
And the world's changing. The kids today are looking at, a lot of them are learning about motorsports through scrolling on their phone, and they maybe don't have the access to go to the tracks or to even play at the tracks. The sim racing, I love go-karting, which is a great entree point. I'm Gen X, right? And if you were an 8, 10, 12-year-old kid that wanted to get into four-wheel racing, you were doing it through go-karting. Sim racing is that other entree point to bring people in and let them see what it's like to run through the gears, to see how a car is going to act and counter steer and hit the apex. So it's reaching a whole other audience. I don't think it's negatively taking anything from karting. Karting's still a thriving, awesome sport as well. But they both collectively are helping now. So I feel like karting has even more of a reach because it's also, the sim is there to complement it. And on the show side of the sim world, 43,000 square feet of sim sitting over there, the steering wheels, the seats, the pedals, the shifters, most of those that are sitting in those sims are made by manufacturers that have been exhibiting at this show for decades.
Really?
And so why I bring that up is it is not, people are like, well, how's sim fit in the PRI? There's no octane, there's no fuel going into that, there's no turbocharger. It's kind of the evolution of the industry, right? So you got an MPI, Max Pappas, former IndyCar driver. MPI makes steering wheels for most of NASCAR and maybe all of NASCAR, several different circuits. They also make sim steering wheels for a lot of the sim manufacturers. And so they opened up a whole other line of growth for their little business. And I just think that's spectacular. So a lot of different things were covered just there, but you kind of were following the point of, like, the sim thing is a really cool thing. I'm embracing it. I think it's just a natural evolutionary part of our industry, and we need to just welcome that, because if it's going to bring that 8, 10, 12-year-old child into the industry, there's a really good chance if that child gets the bug that we all have, that when that child is 22, 32, 42, they might be running a company in this industry or working in this industry and running their own booth at the show. I keep going that way because the booths are right over there.
Yeah.
But, so it's a little bit of that, I think, is tremendous. Back to the larger initiative around attracting the next generation, we're really fortunate for so many reasons in the United States, but one of them, there are a number of really good motorsports engineering schools across the United States, vocational schools, a lot of really strong curriculums that are embracing motorsports engineering and design and every aspect of it. And for PRI, having this connective tissue to represent the entire industry and bring the industry together, one of our initiatives is how do we go out and work with those institutions, whether it's a vocational trade school or whether it's a 4-year, here we're in Indianapolis. Here in Indianapolis, we have the Purdue Motorsports Engineering School, a division of Purdue University. And just coincidentally, just a little side note, they're actually moving a portion of that motorsports engineering school into the Dallara North American headquarters in Speedway, Indiana, next door to the PRI headquarters.
Oh, wow.
So literally across the parking lot from where our headquarters is going to be a building that is educating the next generation at the highest level with Purdue Motorsports Engineering. And
Wow.
So there's so much going on, and that's just one example. I mean, there's a number of universities from Clemson and Alabama and Wyotech, and the list goes on, where I think, we have a responsibility to let those the students that are there understand what PRI is and how we can help them come here. And I don't want it to be a job fair. I don't want them walking around handing out resumes, but I want them to understand your future employer could be sitting out here in this building right now. And if you want to come in here and really just understand a little bit more around whatever it is you're into, transmissions, whatever, engine blocks, billet, there's all kinds of things, carbon fiber, this is the place to do it. And so it's really kind of bridging that gap.
When people hear the word trade show, they may think what it used to be PRI years ago, business to business, like, but I'm not in the industry myself. Can I come to the show? Could you speak more on that of who is allowed to come here?
Sure. So it is a trade organization. Our primary North Star is to put manufacturers into a place where we can bring buyers into the building and see those manufacturers' parts, see what they're doing as an organization, see where their innovations are coming, see where their specialties are and where their expertise lies, and let those buyers then make decisions of whether or not to move forward with them. That's kind of, if we're not doing that, this doesn't exist.
Correct.
So it's really bringing that together. So it is a B2B trade show, period. There is a consumer aspect to it where consumers want to come in, but our caveat that is not really changing is that you work in the industry. So you can go on and buy an individual member. Anyone can go on and become a member of PRI and receive some of the ancillary benefits of discounts and things like that. But to actually get a pass and come to the show, which comes with the registration, you just got to sign up additionally, but it's under the same cost. There's not an additional cost. You can come into the show, but you got to work in the industry. And so if you want to come and your next door neighbor's a dentist,
yeah.
We love dentists.
Sorry,
but,
you can't come to the sim racing.
Yeah, right.
Experience the 40,000 square feet of the sim racing.
Because again, it gets back to our primary objective is to get buyers into this building,
right?
To meet and work with these exhibitors that are here, because we want to help these manufacturers grow their business because that stands up the whole industry and protects the whole industry.
That's right. So for those with aspirations of coming to the trade show, you guys heard it for yourselves what it takes to get them through these doors.
It's similar to SEMA. SEMA's a bucket list for a lot of car kids.
Yeah.
And it's I think they made a change a few years ago where they did the Friday, where if you can go in on Friday.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
And see the show, but we're not there yet.
More of a reason to, if you are interested in cars, to have aspirations to a future and a career in the industry. So
yeah.
I want to go to PRI. Well, you're gonna have to get a job within the industry if you want to come in here.
So, I mean, you and I can't go to the the dental trade show.
Ain't that right? Yeah. So you have many years of decades in the industry as a whole. I can imagine you've been to many races in your lifetime. What is your favorite or the best race that you've attended?
Oh man, there have been so many, and being with PRI, you run the gamut. You get to see everything. And so, as an example, just this year, I've been to the Tractor Pull Nationals in Bowling Green, Ohio. It's called Pull Town. The week before I was there, I was in Knoxville, Iowa at the Sprint Nationals.
Okay.
With Kyle Larson, and Rico and those guys running around the tracks. And that was just amazing. And then you have IMSA, you have the Petite Le Mans down at Road Atlanta, and which was one of the most breathtaking places that I've been to. And I live here in Indy. I get to go to the greatest spectacle in racing every year. But Petite Le Mans, there was something special about that one. It was it's almost like a combination of a Woodstock and an automotive race. Like it was just people camped.
Just a festival.
Really a festival, really cool topography on the property of Road Atlanta if you've never been. So that was amazing. As favorite race, I would probably say 1984 Indy 500.
That's cool. I've yet to experience Indy 500, but that's on one of the bucket lists.
I moved here in April of '84, and I was 12.
Oh, no way. And you got to experience it that first year.
Yeah.
I have a, is it true, like, if you're in Indianapolis, like, you're bound to experience it once in your lifetime?
It's I would say it's odd when I come across people. I've lived here for 40 years,
Right.
and when I come across somebody else that's lived here for 40 years, and I'm like, "What are you doing for the race?" And they're like, "Oh, I've never been." And I'm like, "What?
Is that possible?
Yeah." So it's like, living in San Diego and never going to the beach or something. Like,
Yeah, right.
How do you not do it? But no, it's interesting. It is part of the DNA of Indiana. Our mantra is the racing capital of the world.
That's right.
And that all is really born out of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and what they've built there. And it is a spectacle. It's 2.5 miles around, and the history of what has happened at that track, even if you're not in the open wheel racing, it's still, you got to appreciate the heritage there and the historical aspects of what it's done. So it's pretty cool. But, back to my favorite, I mean, it really does, like that could be a show in and of itself, but I love, the IMSAs, but I also love the SCCA, where it's jump in a Miata and go kill it around a piece of concrete.
Right.
So there's a little bit of everything out there. And, I got into racing in my late teens in motocross. So I was on 2 wheels on dirt. And, that was my passion, and that's what I love doing. And so I still love off-road and dirt racing. And the one I've never been to that I will go to next year, Crandon, is supposed to be spectacular.
Okay.
The trucks, and I think I'm going to King of the Hammers, Dave Cole's show out in right around Palm Springs, and I think it's 10 days, and it's in late January.
It's all the off-roading and ATVs.
The best, yeah, the best of the best.
And I've got a quite a long list of bucket list events to go to.
Yeah, and that one I've never been to, but it's created quite a following. It's something else.
It's ironic because literally right before we came to this podcast, there was somebody at our booth looking at all our children's books and like, you don't have one for tractor pulling? And then you just bring this up that you went to that.
Well, tractor pulling, man, like that was Bowling Green, Ohio, 45,000 people.
Oh, wow.
And you're talking about these tractors with 5,000 foot-pounds of torque and 5,000 horsepower.
That's an outdoor event?
Outdoor. It's held at, it's like a fairground.
Wow.
Type setup. But
they must have crazy stadium seating. That's 45,000 people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it was legit and awesome, and it was packed. I mean, and the tractors ran every different class, but I mean, what you're seeing there's some out here on our floor. The technology that's driving those. There's one sitting out here right now. It goes through 6 pounds of water, and 6 gallons of water and 5 gallons of fuel on a single pull. And the water is to keep everything cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's foreign to me.
Yeah.
Right? But, and that's, you would only learn that on the floor of the PRI show.
Literally. It's eye-opening.
Pulling.
On my way here, I must have stopped and taken 4 or 5 pictures, if not videos, of just amazing builds. Like,
well, there's one sitting right outside the door.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think we're talking about the same one over
Hammerhead.
there. And that, the gray one over there, right?
73.
You mentioned quite a few different types of motorsports. You started off with 2 wheels, have gone to a variety of races. Do you have a favorite? If not, what is the best form of motorsport?
The best form is all of them. I mean, it's, and I don't mean to say that to sound unbiased or agnostic. It's just, if I get excited, I'm a 12-year-old at every race, regardless of, I think everyone in the building is.
I was going to say, I think I feel the same way.
Yeah. So, I love running through the gears. I'm shopping for a car right now to track, and
we'll get into that.
And I'm a huge fan of like tracking resto mods and Old American Muscle and resto modding it, and big engines, big brakes, and but yeah,
that's cool.
All of it.
So, beyond just the forms of motorsports and all the different forms of motorsports represented here, what is the current stage of the racing industry as a whole? Would you say it's in growth, established, expansion, or decline?
I would say it's thriving. So that would probably lean out of those choices to growth. I think there are pockets of things that probably need attention. But I say overall, the walk around the show. I mean, we're at, if the show is a indicator of the racing industry, this is the largest show we've had since before COVID.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So COVID kind of changed everything for trade shows. There were no trade shows in 2020, or at least there weren't SEMA and PRI trade shows in 2020. And both shows have been coming back, and PRI's came back, and I don't know SEMA's numbers, but it was enormous too this year. But, we are projected, we will end this 2024 show with higher numbers than we have ever had since before COVID.
That's awesome to hear. That's very promising to hear as well.
But and back to your the industry, I think the industry is. I think there's a lot going on with change and technology. There was a time when fuel injection came out and everyone was on carburetors, and that really disrupted racing because, like, how do we incorporate this and integrate it and manage it, and can we have fuel injected and carb on the same track, racing in the same class, or does it? All things aren't created equal, and now you're dealing with things like the EV world, and you're dealing with things like AI, autonomous driving, and so you have autonomous, you have artificial intelligence, how's that integrate into our industry? EV, that's an interesting one. It's getting a lot of talk. That one, I think it's kind of at its infancy, even though, the EVs have been around for a bit, but as far as how they incorporate and have a place in racing, I think we're at our infancy. We don't really know what that looks like. There's a lot of experimentation going on. At the end of the day, most experimentation usually leads to prosperity. It leads to new markets and new forms of doing things that we used to do. We're just doing them in a different way. I was born in the 70s. I want to hear a loud screaming engine and running through the gears and the tires squealing. But there's a place for EVs, though. We're not. PRI is not anti-EV. SEMA's not anti-EV. It's more, it's all going to find its place over time. We're in an evolutionary time.
What percentage of would you say is EV at the current show?
Percentage? Oh man, I have no idea, but it would be very minor. I would definitely say it's a single-digit number.
Would you say in 10 years, in your opinion, would that be greatly increasing to a larger half of the show, if not anything?
It's a good question, a little bit of a loaded question. It really depends on what the market does, because we don't create the market. We bring the market together with whatever they've already decided to do. So it'll really be to be determined, not to skate the answer. I would think just because of the natural trajectory of new technologies, you have hybrid technologies is going to be huge, and just alternative fuels. I think EV is one form of an alternative fuel, but you have hydrogen and you have hybrid, and Toyota made it. There are no Toyota EVs. Toyota's going the hybrid path.
Correct.
So it really is going to depend on what the marketplace decides to manufacture. And that's going to be based off of what consumers' demand is. And then the racing world will react from that, right? So it'll be interesting. I think we're just at a evolutionary time.
Yeah, along with the evolution of the types of racing, even just walking the show myself, the manufacturing area, seeing it go, there's a variety of manufacturers that are displaying 3D printed equipment, if not parts. Like, this wasn't here 2-3 years ago, but it's awesome.
In fact, I would encourage you down by the hanging car.
Okay.
Which you should put a picture of that on your page. That's amazing. That's an IMSA championship winning car that's literally hanging upside down when you walk in the food court.
Right above the podcast studio, actually.
Yeah, right by the podcast studio. But right down that hallway is the featured product showcase. There's 460 new products down that hallway. It's shocking. And a lot of the items you're looking at, not only are there 3D printers in that row, there's several products that exist because they came through 3D printing. Yeah. And that's another one of those technologies that's changing the way it's letting the common man get into manufacturing that doesn't know how to necessarily doesn't come from a manufacturing background, but they understand tech and they understand materials, and they're able to utilize that technology and the advancement in 3D printing, the actual machine, and how far that has come over the past 3 to 5 years is profound. So technology is aggressive.
No, definitely.
It never sleeps.
Yeah, but that goes along with the innovation from the manufacturing side to the end product, which is the racing, the events,
right,
and the race car drivers getting into the vehicles that were made from the beginning could potentially be made in someone's garage with 3D printers. Who knows?
Right.
Getting to, I know you have a very busy schedule. If we got to ask you one more question.
Sure, man.
What is, you mentioned you were into resto mods. What is your current stable, your garage like, and do you have a dream car?
My current stable is a tuition at Purdue University, a tuition at Indiana University, and a tuition at a private high school.
Oh, man.
For my 3 kids. I've had several cars over the years. My dad worked for General Motors for a long, long time. And I'll get to this story pretty quick, but I got my license in 1988. So I think about 80s cars, right? 1980s. And so he always had IROCs and GTAs. Later got into some C4 Corvettes, but and they never sounded like a 5.0 Mustang. And if you're a 18-year-old in 1989 and your buddy rolls up in a 5.0 and you're in your mom or dad's IROC, it just didn't sound as cool. Love the GM platform of those cars, but I share all that to say COVID happened. I've had a bunch of cars, but I went out and at the time, my son, 2020, he would have been 14. And I was like, okay, I got to teach this kid on how to wrench on some cars. He's at that age where I can really start to dive in. So I went and bought a 5.0
nice
Mustang and restored that car and wrenched on it and learned a couple things. One, that the sound of the 5.0 sounds even better when you put some BBK headers on it. But 2, that my son doesn't like wrenching on cars.
Oh, man.
Which is fine. He has other skills.
Well, there goes that purpose.
No, it's all good. And had a blast with that car. And he's a car nut. He loves cars. So that was one that I had. And then, man, I've had a bunch of a variety of cars from high performance BMWs and Porsche, Mercedes, Infinity. I experimented with all those kind of cars and tracked some of them. And right now I'm looking at some GT350s, Shelby's, or the newer Mach 1, which was, I guess, not as new as the Dark Horse, but the Mach 1 kind of speaks to me a little more than the Dark Horse. So we'll see. Those are just fun cars to track. Get them in a manual. You can make them really high horsepower with very little dollars. And it's a great time. But then I have... I love old school American muscle. I was born in 1972, and all the obviously late 60s. That's such a cool era of cars. But I'd love to get my hands on like a 72 of the year I was born, and like an old Firebird, and then resto mod the heck out of it.
That sounds like the dream car then.
Yeah, put a crate in there. And
that's cool.
Go have at it. But
well, I know this place in Indy happens in December where you can find all the parts that you need for that car.
That's right. Yeah, there's a lot of things that it's all doable. Just gotta. Yeah, prioritize it, right?
That's definitely right. Mike, we appreciate your time. I learned a whole lot myself.
Sure.
And I know you've got a show to run here.
No, it's all good, man. I appreciate you guys being here. Do what you guys do, and I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you.
Good times ahead.
If you guys enjoyed this episode, please make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Eat, Sleep, Raise podcast. Till the next one.